Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to Temple Emeth and to our Shabbat evening service. I welcome you here to the Rabbi Louis J. Siegel Sanctuary in Teaneck, New Jersey. If you're joining us on live stream this evening, Shabbat Shalom to you. I'm so glad you're joining us, and I want to let you know that the Siddur that we'll use this evening is Mishkan Tefillah. So if you have a copy of Mishkan Tefillah nearby, now is the time to go and find it so you have it in hand for each and every song and prayer and page number of our service this evening. Also, if you're watching on live stream, I hope you'll take a moment to post something in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. It can be your name or your location or simply Shabbat Shalom. But if you post any of these, then others will see that you are there, and in this way we form bonds of virtual community together. And I'd like to wish Shabbat Shalom to everyone who is here in the sanctuary. So nice to see your faces in person. And you know where to find your copy of the Siddur, hopefully right in front of your seat, in the slot behind the seat in front of you. For the past 16 years, February has been designated as Jewish Disabilities Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month. It is a time when we acknowledge the diversity of abilities in our community, and we look for ways to improve access that our community may be welcoming to all. Temple Emeth marks this month with a service every February, coordinated by the Viewpoints Committee, which seeks to include the voices of previously marginalized communities. Later this evening, we will hear from our guest speaker, Rabbi Rebecca Einstein-Shore, who will also lead us in song this evening as our cantorial soloist. And now I invite those of you who are here in the sanctuary to open your copy of Mishkan Tefillah to page 120. That is where we find the blessing for our Shabbat candles. And for the honor of leading us in the blessing for the candles, I call upon Temple member Nancy Mednick.
These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames purify and renew, soften and refine, they brighten and make warm. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue at this time with the Kiddush for Shabbat evening, which is found in Mishkan Tefillah on page 123, also preceded by an English reading. For the honor of leading us in Kiddush, I call upon Temple member David Fox. Please rise if you are able for the Kiddush.
As evening falls, we give thanks for the blessings of the past week, for life and strength, for work and rest, for home, love, and community. As we enjoy this bounty, may we be inspired to bring goodness into the lives of others. We raise a cup of wine in gratitude for the miracle of creation and for the gift of this day of rest. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ra Shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom tehila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'tanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Please be seated. Shabbat shalom. We turn at this time to page 142 in the Siddur, page 142, and on that page we find our opening song. We join together in singing Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, ay, ay. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, ay, ay. Tzeitzchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
In honor of Disabilities Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Shabbat, I would like to share a reading by poet Alden Solovey. In his book, These Words, Poetic Midrash on the Language of Torah, he takes a number of themes that we find in the Torah or in the Midrashic literature, and he offers a reading for each one. This is the reading for the theme of Chesed, loving kindness, and the title of the reading is Claim God's Love. When the children of Israel assemble before you in holy convocation, we assert the covenant, the promise you made to our ancestors. We claim the right to your kindness and unconditional love, the covenant that binds and the love that endures. When the children of Israel assemble together in holy convocation, we assert our love, the promise we made to you in the wilderness. We affirm the responsibility to live your Torah and to teach its ways, the covenant that binds and the love that endures. We turn at this time to page 144 in Mishkan Tefillah as our service continues with Chatzi Kaddish.
Yid Kadal v'Yid Kadash Shemei Rabbah Ve'alma Divrach Yirutei Ve'yamlik Malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon U'chayet Kol Beit Yisrael Bagala Bagala Uvizman Kariv V'meru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olam Mehamaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitbarman V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Tekudsha B'richu Le'elam Mikol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran Be'alma Ve'meru Amen.
Please rise if you are able for the Baruch Hu. The Baruch Hu is on page 146.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
This point in the service is reserved for a prayer that speaks about God's power in creation. The traditional prayer is called Ma'ariv Aravim, but I would like to offer an alternate reading again by Alden Solovey, this time on the theme B'Tselem, which is to be created in the image. It's titled Divine Image. God created you, breathing divine breath into your lungs, into your bones, into your eyes. Now the light of God's love can be seen in your countenance. For the image of God, the blessing of God, and the radiance of God have been engraved on your soul and in your heart. We turn to page 150 for our next reading. Please join me reading together in English in the middle of the page. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated.
Ve'ahavta Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayulatotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvishabrecha lima antizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeit yetchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem.
We turn to page 156 as we read together. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You gave us life and steady our footsteps. You perform miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously.
Yai bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye 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 bim bam, yai bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye 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 bim bam, ay ay da 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 da, ya bye 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 bim bam, ay ay da 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 da, ya bye 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 bim bam, mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar bakodesh. No rati lodo sefele, no rati lodo sefele, mahalechutecha rahuvanecha, bokei ayam, lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zeili, anu ve'amru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye 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 bim bam, ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye 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 bim bam, ay ay da 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 da, ya bye 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 bim bam, ay ay da 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 da, ya da 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 bim bam. V'nemar ki f'Adonai et Yaakov uga'alo miyad chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai gal Yisrael.
Page 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
V'shameru v'nei Shet Yamim Asadonai Et Hashamayim Ve'et Haaretz Uvayom Hashvi'i Shabbat Vayinafash.
We turn at this time in the Siddur to page 164. Please rise if you are able for the tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem Lima'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaye HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia Umorit Mashiv HaRuach Umorit HaGashem Mechakel Chayim Bechesed Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Virofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Baal Givurot Umido Melach Melech Memitu Mechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'nemanatah L'Hachayot HaKol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh Ukdoshim B'chol Yom Yahalelucha Salah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. We turn to page 173, where we read in English at the top of the page. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. And we turn now to page 178, where we find a prayer for peace, which we recite together in Hebrew. Shalom Rav, al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam, Ki atahu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom, V'tov Be'enecha Levarech et Amcha Yisrael, B'chol Eit Uv'chol Sha'a B'Shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai Hamvarech et Amo Yisrael Ba'Shalom. We take a moment now for Tfilat Halev, a moment to offer to God the prayers of our hearts. Inspirational readings for this time are found in the Siddur on pages 180 and 181.
שלא ייגמר לעולם. החול והים רשרו שהמים ורק השמיים תפילת האדם. החול והים רשרו של המים ורק השמיים תפילת האדם. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of my heart.
Our service continues with our service for the reading of the Torah, Seder Kriyat Torah, which begins in the Siddur on page 363. Okay, Karen. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. We continue in the middle of the next page. Please rise if you are able for the Torah service. Okay, we're going to get the Torah.
שהאומרים ראשיכם ושאו פתחי עולם ויבוא מלך הכבוד. מיהו זה מלך הכבוד? אדוני צבאות הוא מלך הכבוד. Selah.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai Iti, Uneromim Shemo Yah.
highlight of Parashat Beshalach is Shirat Hayam, the song that the Israelites sang when they crossed through the sea from slavery to freedom. Most of the lyrics are in the style of an ancient battle hymn. We are victorious and they are vanquished. But a few things stand out to me that connect this text with Jewish Disabilities Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month. The first is simply the message of inclusion that the text conveys. No Israelite was left behind. They were all there, along with some hangers-on known as the Erev Rav. Some of the Israelites had to walk slowly or had poor vision, but it mattered not. The sea stayed open for as long as necessary, and the angel of God protected all of them from the Egyptians until they were safe on the other side. Next, in verse 2, we read, Ozi v'zimrat Yah, God is my strength and might. Each one of us, no matter our abilities, receive our strength from God. Acknowledging God as the source of our strength helps us appreciate the divine within all of us. Finally, I note the way in which Moses led the song. According to commentator Ibn Ezra, Moses composed the song and he taught it to the Israelites, who repeated it after him. Moses, who himself had a speech impediment, taught them in a way that different kinds of learners could still participate. You can follow along as I read from Shirat Hayam, beginning at Exodus chapter 15, verse 1, which is found in the large blue Torah commentary books here in the sanctuary on page 488. That's page 488. And if you're watching on live stream and you've borrowed a copy of the revised Torah commentary for use at this time, you can find the same section, Exodus chapter 15, verse 1, in the in the revised Torah commentary on page 438. For the honor of the Aliyah, we call upon Temple member Karen Duguid. Okay, I forgot one thing. I have to open my book to 488 because what if I freeze and I need a cheat sheet.
I'll pick it up.
Okay, let's put this here. Let me take this. Now you can put your hand right there. And we're ready.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'chabanu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu et Torto. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Amen. Az Yashir Moshe Uvenei Yisrael et hashira hazot ladonai vayomru lemor Ashira ladonai ki ga'o ga'a sus v'rochvo rama vayam Ozi v'zimrat ya vayhili lishua Ze'eli v'yanvehu Elohei aviv v'aroma menhu Adonai ish milchama Adonai shemo Markivot paro v'chelo yaravayam Umivchar shelishav tuv uviyam suf Tehomot yechasyumu Yarduvim tolot kamo aven Yemincha Adonai nedari v'koach Yemincha Adonai tirat oyev Uverov oncha taharos kamecha Tishalach charonecha yochlemo kakash Uveruach apecha ne'ermo mayim Nitzvu kmo neid nozlim Kaf utomot belev yam Amar oyev Erdof asig achalek shalal Timla'e mo nafshi Arik charbi Tori shemo yadi Nashafta v'ruchacha kisamo yam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha ne'edar ba'kodesh, no ra tehilot, osei feleh.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Asher Kalach, you can see behind me. Great, I'm sitting right there. In just a moment, we will offer the words of the Mishaberach, which is found in the Siddur on page 371. If you are thinking of someone in need of healing and you're watching on live stream, you can enter the name of your loved one in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. And here in the sanctuary, if you are thinking of someone in need of healing, I invite you to share their name out loud or in your heart at this time. The Mishaberach can be an awkward prayer to recite for one with disabilities. Our prayers for healing of the body imply that there is still more healing to be done. For people with disabilities, that may not be the case. That's part of the acceptance. But our prayer also asks for healing of the spirit. This is something deeper and more profound. Healing of the spirit can be the sense of purpose that each and every one of us should feel. It can be the affirmation that we are created in God's image, even if our bodies or minds do not work the way we wish they did. And so on this Disability Shabbat, as we approach the Mishaberach, I ask you to think broadly about healing and how each of us, in partnership with God, may move closer to this goal. We think of our temple members and their loved ones in need of healing. Their names will appear on your screen, either on live stream or in the corner of the sanctuary. We turn now to page 371 and we join together in the Mishaberach.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
We continue this time with the lifting and dressing of the Torah found at the bottom of page 370. When I lift the Torah, you can take a close look at the scroll and see that Shirat Hayam is written not like a regular column of text, but it is written in a special spacing that resembles a brick wall, perhaps because the walls of water were as solid and reassuring to the Israelites as they crossed through as a brick wall would have been. And so look for that as I do the Hagbah. Please rise if you are able for Hagbah and Galila.
V'zot haTorah she'sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael api Adonai b'yad Moshe Yalalai lai 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 yalalai lai 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 yalalai lai 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 yalalai lai lai lai
We remain standing as we turn to page 374. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado.
Hodaleret v'shamayim v'yarem keren le'amo tehila lechol chasidav livnei Yisrael am kirovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu.
Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha mehushar deracheha darchei noam v'chon netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai eilecha v'nashuva Chodesh Chodesh Yameinu Chodesh Yameinu kekedem.
Please be seated. That was the warning. As I mentioned at the outset of our service, our annual service in honor of Jewish Disabilities Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month is a project of our Viewpoints Committee, which offers programming throughout the year to help us appreciate the diversity of the Jewish community. And so at this time, to introduce our speaker and to talk a little bit about the work of the Viewpoints Committee, it's my pleasure to call upon the chair of the committee, Karen Rappaport.
Shabbat Shalom. As he said, I'm the chairperson of the Viewpoints Committee, which is the sponsor of this evening's service. The mission of Viewpoints is to provide programming to educate our community about different kinds of Jews. This includes the LGBTQ community, minorities, and the disability communities. As part of that effort, I am very pleased to introduce tonight's speaker, Rabbi Rebecca Einstein-Schur. She will speak about her personal experiences in the disability community. Rabbi Rebecca Einstein-Schur grew up in Southern California and earned a Bachelor of Music in Voice from Ithaca College School of Music, Theater, and Dance. She studied at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, always with music complementing her work. During her first year of rabbinical school, she served as the cantorial soloist in the overflow service at the HUC-JIR Jerusalem campus. Rabbi Schur served as rabbi and music director at Congregation B'nai Tzedek in Fountain Valley, California for 5 years. In addition to her pulpits in Southern California, Rabbi Schur has led high holiday services for several different congregations. She serves as the service leader of a sensory-friendly mincha service at the congregation where her family belongs. Most recently, Rabbi Schur was the interim campus rabbi at Lafayette College. Rabbi Schur is a Klal Rabbis Without Borders Fellow, a contributing writer at Kveler.com, and is the former editor of the newsletter of the CCAR. Additionally, she is the recipient of the 2016 National Jewish Book Award in Women's Studies for The Sacred Calling, 40 Years of Women in the Rabbinate. A lover of languages, Rabbi Schur is on the advisory board of the Jewish Language Project and is an aspiring Yiddishist. She makes her home in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, with her husband, Warren, and children Benjamin, Lillian, and Jacob. And I'd like to introduce Rabbi Schur.
A quick word before I get started. You'll notice when I speak about my son, Ben, I say that he is autistic and not that he has autism or is on the autism spectrum. This is in response to Ben's preference to use identity-first language. As he says, when you say I have autism, it sounds like something I could put down like a suitcase, and then I wouldn't have it anymore. I am autistic. It is how my brain understands the world, and it is who and how I am. From the very start, Ben was a difficult baby. He was a difficult toddler who grew into a difficult child. Though something nagged at me all the while, Ben's pediatrician, his former pediatrician, met my concerns with things like boys develop more slowly, kids develop at different paces, and then my personal favorite, you're just a nervous first-time mother. Because all of these statements, when pulled out of their context, were true, not the nervous part, and because they were coming from the medical professional in whom we had put our trust, I allowed my intuitive fears to be brushed aside again and again. It was Ben's kindergarten teacher who first suggested that she was seeing some things in Ben that were consistent with an autism diagnosis. And in that moment, it was as if the vice surrounding my heart had been unexpectedly and instantaneously loosened. Breath that I didn't know I had been holding for nearly 6 years rushed out of my lungs, leaving me lightheaded. I've never been one to hide Ben's diagnoses, for he has many. I have always spoken openly about the difficulties that being autistic can create for Ben and others like him as they try to navigate a world that is rife with road bumps at every turn. But what I concealed was the pain I felt, the sometimes oppressive nature that the autism diagnosis can foist upon all members of the family: the isolation, the depression. And so I hid behind my work. I hid behind the tasks I had been called to do when I was ordained as a rabbi. I shielded my son from much of the public aspect that comes with being the child of a congregational rabbi. I shielded my congregation from seeing the sometimes ugly aspects of a complicated and misunderstood disorder. And I shielded myself from the risks of being seen by the outside world during some of my most unholy moments. I did an excellent job. So much so that in 2010, when I announced to my congregation that I was stepping off the pulpit in order to be a full-time parent to Ben and his two siblings, many thought that there must have been some other reason. But Ben seems so normal. I've had such great conversations with Ben. Ben is always so polite when I've seen him. It almost seems like you're making this up. Yes, Ben can seem normal. And he has always been a phenomenal conversationalist with adults. And he is uber polite after many, many years of social instruction. Unlike the many other manifestations of autism, Ben is able to give the appearance of competency. But it is a facade, a mask, if you will, and one that requires from him tremendous emotional, mental, and spiritual energy and focus. And when Ben has too much to process, or fails to decipher nonverbal communication, or the myriad things that hamper his ability to function, the mask comes off and the illusions of normalcy disappear. I know that people mean well when they compliment me on Ben's manners or remark how normal he seems. And in fact, Ben does have many moments of normalcy throughout the day, but they are inconsistent, and they are moments. They don't last. So Ben's high functioning, right? Many people have heard the terms high functioning and low functioning when it comes to autism, but I want to make it clear that these labels don't reflect the reality of what it means to be autistic. These terms can create a false divide, implying that some autistic people are better off than others or can lead a normal life. But the truth is that these terms fail to capture the complexity of the challenges Ben and others like him face. When someone is labeled high functioning, there's an assumption that they don't struggle much or that their needs are minimal. However, this cannot be further from the truth for someone like Ben. Ben is highly articulate, and he can do certain activities independently. Yet he is unable to hold a job and requires ongoing assistance with daily activities. In other words, the label high functioning in no way indicates the significant difficulties Ben faces, he says, from the moment he wakes up until the moment he falls asleep. The expectations placed on people who are labeled as high functioning can actually increase their stress and sense of isolation because people don't always recognize the invisible challenges that they live with daily. Conversely, the term low functioning can have devastating consequences. It can imply that the person has no potential, that they cannot achieve anything or contribute meaningfully to our society. It can lead to people underestimating their abilities and not offering them opportunities to grow and succeed. But this label ignores the fact that even people who might struggle with verbal communication, or might not have verbal communication at all, or have greater support needs, can still have incredibly rich inner lives and unique talents and skills. Autism is not a one-size-fits-all condition. It is a spectrum, and what works for one person might not work for another. I mean, what has worked one time for Ben might not even work the next time for Ben. Ben's needs can change depending on the situation, how tired he is, and some days are better than others. Sometimes his strengths shine through, and other times the challenges are overwhelming. It's not about being high or low functioning. It's about understanding that every autistic person has unique needs and strengths, and it's up to us to listen and respond accordingly. I'd like to say that after all these years of parenting Ben, I have figured out how to respond accordingly in each and every situation. Sometimes I do. Earlier this week, however, I missed the mark. I was downstairs in the basement attempting to get some work done in my library. Upstairs, I could hear Ben was in the midst of emptying the dishwasher, one of his daily chores that is written on the whiteboard that hangs by the table. He realized that he was going to need lunch, so I yelled up to him to put up a pizza, and that when it was ready, I would come up and help him cut it. He struggles with his fine motor skills. What I had neglected to tell him was that he needed to pause from putting away the dishes in order to preheat the oven, take the box out of the freezer, take the baking sheet out and put the silicone pad in, and open up the box and take the pizza out of the plastic wrapper, place it on the baking tray, and put it into the oven, and then return to his chore. It only came to my attention after about 20 minutes when Ben yelled down to me that he had finished the dishwasher and now had no time to make his lunch before we had to leave for one of his many weekly appointments. He was flustered and upset, and I, not realizing my mistake, was also flustered and upset. And when I say flustered and upset, it's code for yelling. Even after all of this time, I forget that Ben struggles with executive functioning. It would never have occurred to him to assess his timing, readjust the order of his tasks, and then continue in order to get everything done in order to leave on time. I stopped and let out all of the aggravation and took a breath and realized it could have been avoided had I given the following instructions. Please stop what you are doing, preheat the oven, and then do what you need to do to get the pizza in the oven. The dishes can wait. Now, depending on the day, that 3-step instruction might be far too much for Ben to process. He's good with 2 steps, except for when he's only good with 1 step at a time. In those cases, I would need to break it down even further, which requires more oversight on my part and decreases my chances of getting my task completed. I can be heard muttering, "This is why I never get anything done," through gritted teeth on a near daily basis. Feeling rather proud of myself for having figured out how to avoid this pitfall in the future, I immediately followed up with this newfound realization the following day by making yet another miscalculation. Someone talks about evolution and survival of the fittest, and I'm not the poster child because I continue to make these mistakes. Now, the details are immaterial. As we drove in charged silence after being flustered and argumentative, I thought to myself, is there any way for me to convey how challenging every single day is to Ben, to me, to the rest of our household? Is it possible for anyone to understand the anticipatory anxiety with which we all live, waiting for Ben to melt down? Reflecting on nearly a quarter century of parenting Ben, I'm grateful that in many ways times have changed. Since 2007, the American Academy of Pediatrics has recommended universal autism screenings at ages 18 months and 24 months. Furthermore, the AAP recommends that children be screened for developmental delays beginning at 9 months. Most significantly, the AAP now encourages medical practitioners to heed a parent's intuition should they raise a concern about their child's behavior or development. Rather than brushing aside a mother's unease with dismissive comments, earlier diagnoses can lead to better and more comprehensive care, resulting in more positive lifelong outcomes for the autistic individual. For Ben, whose late diagnosis precluded him from accessing any early intervention programs, it was the public schools that provided him with the necessary therapies and accommodations needed for his early successes. And we have Judith Newman, Zichrona Livracha, to thank for that. Judy Newman, who died in 2023, is known as the mother of the disability rights movement. Born to two German Jewish immigrants, Judy contracted polio at 18 months and lived most of her life in a wheelchair. When it was time to start school, the local public school denied her entry, calling her a fire hazard due to her inability to walk and theoretically evacuate in the case of a fire. Her mother fought vociferously for her daughter's right to be educated, and with great success, Judy earned her bachelor's degree in speech therapy from Long Island University, and later a master in public health from the University of California, Berkeley. During her time at LIU Brooklyn, among other things, she organized students to demand that ramps be added to allow full access to all buildings. This was the late 1960s. Hard to imagine a time when physically disabled students would be unable to attend a class because they couldn't get into the building. Upon graduating with her bachelor's degree, the Board of Education of the City of New York refused to grant Judy a teaching license because they did not believe that she would be able to evacuate herself and her students in the case of a fire. She sued. The case was settled without a trial, and Judy became the first wheelchair user to teach in New York City. Judy went on to advocate for the creation of policies and laws that have positively impacted the lives of disabled people, and I would suggest the lives of all people, such as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or the IDEA. The IDEA ensures that students with a disability are provided with a free, appropriate public education according to each individual's needs. Some of you may be familiar with an IEP, an Individualized Education Plan. I see you nodding, maybe your children, your grandchildren. This legal document is a requirement under the IDEA to lay out what accommodations the school must provide to guarantee a free, appropriate public education. For Ben, our other children who have disabilities that differ widely from Ben's, and the millions of students like them, laws such as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act are essential for their quality of life. The news that there is a movement afoot to dismantle the United States Department of Education, which is the department responsible for enforcing IDEA, has struck understandable fear in parents of children who require this type of legislation to ensure their access to the same education as non-disabled children. This is just one of the many looming changes that potentially will have dire consequences for families like mine. In this week's portion, Beshalach, in the chapter before the one that we heard so beautifully chanted tonight, we find the words, V'chizakti et lev paro, then I will stiffen Pharaoh's heart. A key concept recurrent in the Exodus narrative concerns the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. Even after our ancestors' dramatic departure from the flesh pots of servitude, God causes Pharaoh's heart to harden this one final time as we are reaching the shores of the sea. He causes Pharaoh to disregard the anguished cries of the Israelites yet again. I think about the notion of hardening one's heart a lot these days. I wonder how it is possible for so many people to inure themselves to the struggles of others. And I'm angry that Ben's life will only get more difficult in a society that may no longer seek to be inclusive of those who are different. Ben's story is unique only in that each one of us has a unique set of circumstances. But talk to any parents of a child with special needs, and you will soon find the threads of commonality to be in the multitudes. Life for autistic people is hard enough already. Shouldn't we do what we can to make it easier, to make it more inclusive? Disability Shabbat encourages us to better understand the multifaceted ways in which all humanity has been created B'Tselem Elohim, in the divine image. To champion disability rights and consider the many ways in which dismantling departments and inclusive policies impact us and those around us. May we all continue to work for a future where every individual is valued as being created in God's image, and that we ensure that all people thusly are treated as such. May we strive to re-examine, correct, and refine those aspects of our society that impede others to full participation. And may the Holy One, blessed be God, soften the hearts of those who have been inured to the plights of others. Keni hi ratzon, may this be God's will.
Thank you, and Yasher Koch, Rabbi Shore, for sharing not only your personal family story, but for putting it in the context of education policy, of laws, of the challenges that may still lie ahead for the families of people with special needs, and of course, putting it in the context of the Torah portion as well. So Yasher Koach, and thank you for really giving us so much to think about on this Disability Shabbat. In a moment, we will offer the prayer for the state of Israel found in Mishkan Tefillah on page 552. Israel has always had a strong reputation when it comes to supporting people with disabilities. This is because of the many people who have been disabled in war or in terrorist attacks over the decades. To thrive as a society, Israel cannot simply write off their talents. We saw that firsthand last month when we welcomed a Paralympian table tennis player and learned about the Israel Parasport Center. Sadly, the attacks of October 7th, 2023 and the war that followed it will leave many more Israelis disabled and in need of awareness, acceptance, and inclusion. At this time, we think of all in Israel with disabilities and the many people and organizations dedicated to assuring they lead dignified and productive lives. We think as well of the remaining hostages, of the soldiers who risk their lives to defend the state, and of all the Israelis who live with fear and disruption at this time. We turn in Mishkan Tefillah to page 552. Please rise if you are able for the prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu Shabashamayim, Sur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael Reshit Smichat Geulatenu, Hagen Aleha be'evrat chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Orcha v'Amitka l'Rasheh Soreh v'Yotzeha, V'taknei be'etzah tova milfanecha, V'natata Shalom ba'aretz, V'simchat olam yoshbeha, V'nomar. Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. We remain standing at this time as we turn to page 586. We look to the bottom of the page as our service continues with the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, v'lo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kecho hamonam, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'nemar b'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. As we prepare for the mourner's Kaddish, we think of the many people with disabilities who died while there was not yet a treatment or an intervention available to help them thrive. We think of those who died because even though such a treatment or intervention existed, they were not able to access appropriate care. The first words of the Kaddish affirm God's magnitude and sanctity. This affirmation is intended to bring us comfort and to remind us that we live in God's world and have an obligation to make God's world a more aware, accepting, and inclusive place. In that way, we best honor those who have died when we improve this world for the living. This Shabbat, we remember one for whom we are in the Shloshim 30-day period of mourning, Shirley Rosenzweig, a member of Temple Emeth. We remember as well those whose yard sites occurred this week: Dorothy Bernberg, Etta Blumenfeld, Hannah Rothenberg-Broder, Jean Surf, Sylvain Surf, Joan Chellemer, Abe Dickstein, Lincoln Isaiah Duguid, Alan Gelbart, Elfrida Goldsmith, Joseph Gottfried, Regina Gross, Robert Heischober, Paula Hirschfeld, Yetta K. Jerome, Sarah Kane, Isaac Macklin Kaplan, Benjamin Katz, Maria Kozak, Fran Levine, Lillian Grubert Moravnik, Aaron Middleman, Sylvia Pollock, Simi Portnoy, Sarah Price, David Rose, Emmanuel Rosen, Francis Rosenberg, Ilsa Rosenthal, Philip Sachs, Ben Salkin, Sharon Segan, and Arthur Strassman. We remember the names of 6 of the 6 million who perished in the Holocaust. Shraga Vidman of Poland, age 9, Miklos Vig of Yugoslavia, age 10, Gabor Vider of Hungary, age 10, David Vider of Hungary, age 3, Esther Vivante of Greece, age 12, and Sandra Vivante of Greece, age 10. We remember them all. We take them into our hearts with our own as we turn at this time to page 598. Please rise if you are able for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitzgadal v'yitzgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yurutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'yizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam u'olmei almaya, yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitznaseh, V'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal, shemei d'kudsha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. It is my pleasure at this time to call upon Deborah Veach, a member of our Board of Trustees, to offer Shabbat greetings and announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos to everyone. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Shabbat evening service. This evening's Oneg Shabbat is sponsored by the Viewpoints Committee in honor of Jewish Disability Shabbat. I want to thank Rabbi Rebecca Einstein-Shore joining us as tonight's featured speaker, and I'd like to talk to you about your Yiddish after the service. Ich het. Tomorrow, Temple Emeth is pleased to host our annual One Book, One Synagogue Shabbaton. This day of study, prayer, and food will focus on the themes of Kantika by Elizabeth Graver. Rabbi Serbu will lead a text study starting at 9 a.m., followed by Shabbat services at 10:30 a.m. A festive lunch for those who pre-registered follows at noon, and at 12:45 we'll watch a documentary film about a Turkish Sephardic family. Next Saturday, February 15th, at 10:30 a.m., Cantor Tillam will lead a Shabbat morning healing service. This service features special readings and music to help guide us through life's challenges. On Friday, February 21st at 8 p.m., the Social Action Committee will sponsor Hayas Refugee Shabbat. Our speaker will be Meryl Zach, the Chief Global Community Engagement Officer of Hayas and Executive Director, Hayas New York. Temple Emeth will sing at the service, and Carol Shansky, who's here tonight, will share her talent on the flute, recognizing the contributions of refugee composers. This year's Shalach Manot campaign is underway. Information on how to place your order is in your weekly email and on the Temple Emeth website. Order forms are also in the lobby. Orders are due by Friday, February 21st. Please contact shalachmanot@emeth.org with any questions. Join us for pizza and a movie on Saturday night, February 22nd at 6 p.m. The film will be Munich, which is based on a book about Mossad assassinations following the massacre at the 1972 Olympics. Registration details are in the weekly email. Temple Emeth is pleased to welcome the author of our One Book, One Synagogue selection, Elizabeth Graver, for a special Zoom-only presentation with Q&A on Tuesday, February 25th at 7:45 p.m. Watch for the Zoom link in your weekly email. This year's Gilda and Robert Boyd Glazer concert will take place on Sunday, March 2nd at 2 p.m. The concert, titled Jewish Legacy, features classical saxophonist Paul Cohen. For more information, there are flyers in the lobby. Finally, Temple Emeth is once again collecting clothing and other items for Midnight Run. For a list of needed items, please check the weekly email or see the flyers in the lobby. Donations can be dropped off whenever the building is open. Thank you to this evening's volunteers in the live stream control room. Doug and Nikki Falk are at the controls this evening. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Doug. And if you're new to Temple Emeth or looking to get more involved, please see me after services. My name is Deborah, and I'll be happy to tell you more about the congregation and activities. Actually, anybody here would be happy to tell you about the congregation and our activities. Also, I plan to be at the lunch tomorrow. If anybody is new or shy, please feel free to sit with me. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Well, I thank Rabbi Shore for her wonderful words, but now I'd like to thank both Rabbi Shore and Tom Mustachio for the wonderful music that they've offered at our service this evening. There is one more song to go. Our closing song is found in Mishkan Tefillah on page 645. It is a song set to a quote from Pirkei Avot, Lo Alecha Hamlacha Ligmor. It is not upon you to complete the task, but neither are you free to desist from it. And we now join together, page 645.
Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, velo ata ben chori lehi
We've reached the conclusion of our service. If you've been watching on live stream, it's your last chance to post something in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. And here in the sanctuary, as we conclude our service, we turn to one another and say,
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.